The topic of our lecture today is Earth's oceans. The percentage of our planet that is covered by ocean water is actually very high. The planet is divided into two halves, the northern hemisphere, which is the top half of the Earth, and the southern hemisphere, or the bottom half. 80% of the southern hemisphere is ocean. As for the top half, 61% of the northern hemisphere is ocean. Less than the southern hemisphere, but still quite a bit. The result is that 71% of the planet's surface is ocean, and only 29% is land. Naturally, all of the oceans are connected, so we can think of it as one world ocean which is divided into four main ocean basins. These four basins are the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, and the Arctic. First, we have the Atlantic Ocean, which stretches between Europe and Africa and the Americas. Next, the Pacific Ocean, which is the largest and deepest ocean. The Pacific stretches between the Americas and Asia. Moving south, we have the Indian Ocean, which is easy to remember because it surrounds the country of India. And then, in the northern regions of our planet, we also have the Arctic Ocean, which is the smallest and shallowest ocean. Some people say that there is one more ocean called the Southern Ocean, down near the Antarctic continent. However, not all scientists agree that the Southern Ocean is a separate ocean basin. Again, the oceans are not actually separated. They are all connected, and water is constantly mixing and moving from one ocean to the other. This is why we can think of all our planet's oceans as one world ocean. Earth's oceans are very, very deep. The average depth from the surface of the ocean down to the ocean floor is 4,200 meters. As one goes down from the surface, one finds a very interesting feature. The ocean has a layered structure. This is because seawater has different densities. Density has to do with heaviness, the quantity of matter in a particular space or area. In the next part of our lecture, I'd like to look in more detail at the ocean's layered structure. An interesting feature of the ocean is its layered structure. Let's talk about each of the three main layers one by one. The first layer is called the surface layer. The surface layer is the top 100 to 200 meters of the ocean. The sun heats the seawater in this upper layer. Therefore, the surface layer is sometimes called the sunlit zone. Its warmth and light permeate the surface layer, making it an ideal place for many forms of life. Most of the ocean's fish and other marine life are near the surface layer, where they can find a lot of algae and other plants to eat. Beneath the first 200 meters or so of the ocean, the surface layer ends and the middle layer begins. The middle ocean layer goes down to about 1,000 meters in depth. The biggest difference between the surface layer and the middle layer is the temperature of the water. As I just said, the surface layer is relatively warm, with an average temperature of 17 degrees Celsius. By contrast, in the middle layer, the temperature drops very quickly. With every meter you go down, the temperature becomes colder and colder. By 1,000 meters, the average temperature of the ocean water is only 4 degrees Celsius. Sunlight becomes much weaker below the sunlit zone, so no plants can grow in the middle layer. Consequently, most of the animals living in this layer have to swim up to the surface layer to find food. Below the middle layer of the ocean, there is the bottom layer, which is all the cold, dense water below 1,000 meters in depth. As you can imagine, there is no sunlight here at all, so the water is pitch black. As a result, this layer is sometimes called the midnight zone. It has very cold, almost freezing temperatures. The animals that live here have to adapt to be able to live in this cold and dark environment. For example, many fish in the midnight zone do not have eyes. Some animals here make and give off their own light. Much of the ocean's bottom layer hasn't been studied yet, so scientists still don't know a lot about this deep environment. So let's just review very quickly what we talked about today. We have four main oceans: the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. All of the oceans are connected, and as a result, we can describe them as one world ocean. The oceans are deep and have a layered structure. There's a surface layer, a middle layer, and a bottom layer. There's much, much more to say about the ocean. It's the last unexplored region on Earth.